Objektifnya orang itu misalnya, let's take Google for example.
Halo teman-teman, balik lagi di video Anak Muda Mengajak di segmen Bryan Gunawan Project. Dan hari ini kita mau mengajak kalian untuk tahu sesuatu yang insightful banget, yaitu Objective and Key Result, atau yang biasa kita sebut sebagai OKR. Dan kita akan langsung mendengar dari Cliff Ricardo, selaku VP of Product Marketing at Qoala dan co-founder at Bavana Ventures. Yuk kita simak.
Hi, I'm Cliff. I'm an astronaut. No, I'm kidding. I'm Cliff. I'm VP of Marketing from Qoala. I do want to be an astronaut though, one time. But anyway, we are today doing a bit of a class with Bryan Gunawan Project's BGP. Thanks for the crew for coming out. But I think the topic today that yang bakalan disorot lebih lanjut adalah OKR, Objective Key Results. OKR ini juga salah satu yang topik yang gue cover juga in the class with BGP a couple of weeks back, and I think ini adalah salah satu factors that actually make it or break it for an organization these days, karena it is a piece of tool yang very strong, very powerful untuk keep everybody in the organization in tune with the strategy. They know exactly what they're going. And then you can prioritize what kind of key factors that needs to be put forth as first, second, third, and so on and so forth. So many people nggak tahu, but like objective key results. But I think objective key results (OKR) is a concept that is actually quite new, relatively new dibandingin sama organizational tools yang lainnya kayak scorecard, strategy map, scenario planning, all of that, or KPI, key performance indicator sendiri ya kan. The concept is like very very old, yang kayak KPI dan scorecard. Tapi mereka masih relevant, very very relevant. Cuman when you're talking about innovations, and you're talking about working in a startup, right? When you're talking about working in a startup, working with uncertainties, typically balance scorecards and KPIs are still very very useful untuk kayak dipakai, and you should have them in any organization still. Cuman sometimes, especially when we're trying to use it, you can balance scorecard and strategy map, scenario planning, KPIs, we feel something is missing. Karena seakan-akan you're just following a certain framework, but it doesn't really translate into the kind of success that we want to do. Again, granted, it's because some companies today itu build-nya is very different than companies in the past, right? Companies in the back of my mind, like let's say Coca-Cola, right? Atau let's say American Express, more of the old school brands yang ada di dunia ini ya kan, and historically very very successful. Mereka follow a certain formula, like okay, you gotta fix your organizational capabilities, internal capabilities first, and then you can proceed to making the customer happy, right? Translating to better customers, and then better customers translate to better financial success. And the only way that you're calculating success is through financial success. And balance scorecard is typically doing that with financial success. But what happens kalau misalnya you're working in a startup that is not profitable yet, right? So financial success is not the main goal in the beginning, in the first 2 years or 3 years or how many long, depending on what startup that you're doing. Jadi kan in the first, second, and third year, since you want to survive and you want to grow as big as you can, as fast as you can, you gotta prioritize on your core values and what kind of factors that you want to prioritize on, and not necessarily going through the old path and okay, internal process needs to be good, and then the customers then needs to be happy, and then it goes straight into a better financial success. Not necessarily, I mean there are components yang very very good that you can learn from that everything is true, and then you need to implement it still. Karena customer needs to be happy still, and then obviously the company needs to make money. ultimately. But let's say you're a startup, right? And you know exactly, like let's say this quarter kita harus getting our products, certain products or certain features ready, right? Especially when you're a tech company, let's say. That's not really necessarily a part of balanced scorecard, right? It's quite difficult to fit it in perfectly into balanced scorecard gitu, but it's still something that you need to prioritize in your organization. So that's where I see objective and key results play into the part. So objective key results is basically a quite relatively new concept, as I said earlier. First implemented in Intel. Bapaknya OKR is definitely Andy Grove. He introduced this concept, and salah satu implementasinya itu was to conquer Intel versus Motorola, right? Motorola came with a new processor unit back then, and then marketed beautifully di America, right? They came from Japan and then of course penetrated the market in the US and beyond. Intel ngerasa kayak our processor is actually not better, tapi it's actually comparable, tapi they are beating us in front of the customers, right? So what they decided adalah, okay, there is this project. Now we need to prioritize what we need to do, right? So that's why they use this OKR concept, objective key results. The concept itself is really, really simple, right? O-nya OKR, which is objective, is putting in what kind of objectives atau goals that you want to conquer atau want to achieve. Let's say per quarter basis, it can be also 1 year, it can be also a big kayak mission gitu ya kan, a big OKR that doesn't have kayak 1 tahun tapi mungkin bisa sampai 5-10 tahun. But really OKR works best if you have a very limited time frame, right? If you have like a very short time frame like 1 month or 3 months, it works best. Kenapa? Karena kayak objective key results itu adalah you put everybody on the same page. Jadi objektifnya orang itu misalnya, let's take Google for example, right? Google's punya objektif yang obviously the mission is to organize the world's information, right? And tapi salah satu objektifnya mereka yang mereka pakai untuk bisa align everybody in the organization supaya they have the same mission, they understand what they need to do. Objectivesnya itu akhirnya akan di breakdown ke like, okay, we have Gmail, we have obviously the Google search itself. Okay, what kind of improvements do we need to make as part of our mission, right? From let's say Gmail, let's say Google search, let's say ads and everything else, right? Nah itu apa aja sih yang kayak we need to put in place to our organizations, across our organizations, and then people will understand what kind of target do we need to make for Gmail, Google search, and ads individually, right? Jadi coming back to the example yang si Intel tadi untuk kayak ngalahin Motorola, how do we beat Motorola back then, right? Okay, so the objective is, okay, we want to beat Motorola di satu salesnya kita, we want to ultimately beat them in sales, right? But how do we beat them in sales, in terms of sales? Now you keep on breaking it down on the objective in terms of sales, but you keep it breaking it down into more objectives. Okay, breaking it down in terms of sales means gua harus bisa occupy all of the marketing channels yang out there yang Motorola pakai, and then I need to crowd them with all of the contents yang berhubungan sama Intel and why Intel is better than Motorola, right? So channels as another OKR level 2 or something, you want to call that. Tapi breaking down further adalah, okay, untuk gue mencapai itu, what do I need to have, right? I need to have the content, right? I need to have the content. Okay, so what kind of content do I need to put out? Comparison type of content, promotional type of content yang berdasarkan harga, or KOL, or any other kind of like content ideas that you guys have, right? Nah, let's say you have breaking it down sampai ke level itu, right? But any objectives itu is not complete without any key results, right? So objective itu, okay, by the famous words of Sheryl Sandberg, if you don't have key results, you don't have no OKR. Key results itu harus bisa diukur, it has to be measurable, dan itu akan membuat the OKR itself alive, right? So salah satu faktor dari objective is definitely has to be clear. The objective itself has to be clear. The objective needs to be linked to the company values and missions, and obviously the key results itself needs to be measuring the objectives itself very very clearly. Misalnya kalau sales, how do you measure sales? Obviously by the IDR values, right? Or let's say how much kayak content, misalnya. Okay, how do you value content? Okay, the amount of content that you want to put out, misalnya kayak 1,000 pieces of content that you want to put out, let's say, or 100 pieces of content that you want to put out. Other things like, okay, we want to win more customers. Okay, so berapa persen dari uptake of customers that you need to have? That's also another key results that you need to measure. Just make sure that the key results is also very very valid for the business that you're in, right? And also very valid for the kind of mission that you're trying to solve or trying to achieve. And then obviously it needs to be time bound. OKR needs to be time bound, meaning the OKR itself needs to be stretched. Makanya ada kayak istilah stretch OKR, meaning that, well, you and the entire organization needs to be feel that you're challenged. Gitu. That's the point of OKR. It needs to be scary. It needs to be making you uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable, then the OKR defeats its purpose. Kenapa? Karena again, coming back, OKR is created in the environment yang penuh uncertainties, right? In order to beat that uncertainty, you need to feel uncomfortable. You need to be feeling uncomfortable to beat that particular target, right? Yang very very relevant for the organization, obviously. Karena mindsetnya again coming from like startups or anything, kenapa itu cocok? Is because okay, if you don't succeed, there's no startup. You will fail. And then when you fail, cost money and obviously cost funding, right? So definitely stretch OKR needs to be challenging the entire organization, up and down. Gitu kan. So, and those are the factors of the OKRs. And then obviously, gimana sih caranya di-implement? So, what I feel implementing OKR in Qoala, and then also looking at how OKR has been implemented across other startups. The best way to do it is to do it slowly, right? To do it slowly. OKR is a powerful tool, but you need to do it kind of strategically as well. Karena it's not the typical way that employees think about things. They think about performance itu in the form of KPI, but it's not, the KPI is not necessarily geared towards what the company is prioritizing, right? So that's why implementing OKR in the middle of the workforce itu kadang-kadang ngerasa kayak what's this has to do with my KPI? Why is it different and why is it not? So really need to kayak implement this kayak quite carefully. The best way to do it adalah implement it per quarter dulu. I think that's the best way that we have found. Implementing it on a quarterly basis, it's much easier daripada we went straight away to a monthly OKR. Monthly OKR is great. Kenapa? Karena kayak monthly OKR itu beneran shortening the time frame and increasing the challenge, and that's what Google has been very very successful in doing gitu ya, in the US. But again, they need to build the OKR muscle, their OKR capabilities in order to do that. Gitu. For people or organizations to just get started, typically go for 3 months, go for a per quarter, or go for 6 months, right? Start easy, start small, and start not exactly across all functions of the organizations. Like, okay, I want finance to do something, I want operations to do something, I want marketing to do something, I want product to do something, I want sales to do something. Probably ease it up first, right? Pick the right functions within the organization that really needs that push of the OKR. Yang benar link to the mission that you want to do, when the mission at the start that needs to be done. And then you test it, and then you see whether people are buying into the concept of OKR, or buying into the kind of objectives they need to accomplish, and also are they achieving their key results ultimately, right? So I mentioned a little bit of OKR, or objective key results, being scary, being challenging, but of course looking at the achievements of OKRs itu kadang-kadang quite difficult to gauge. Kadang-kadang kayak you need to see kayak okay, a rule of thumbnya adalah if you achieve 70% of your OKR, you're actually doing a very good job. Karena again, OKR if done correctly, it's super challenging. So if you achieve 70% of it, you're still making a fantastic progress. Gitu. But if you achieve like 100% or 120%, you're exceeding target. So now your OKR is not necessarily set correctly. So one point that needs to be done adalah you need to correct it in the next cycle. You need to correct it in the next OKR cycle for the next 6 months or 3 months or the next month, right? And obviously, the ones that needs to do this is definitely needs to come from the top management and down, right? You need to do it from the CEO, COO, CFO, everybody from the top management level needs to be on board with this and reviewing those OKRs correctly. And also those results being monitored correctly and tracked correctly as well. So last thing that I really want to say about OKRs, I think it really does apply to any sort of like functions. It does apply to like finance, it does apply to product, it does apply to marketing, it does apply to sales and other functions, right? Customer service, etc. Because ultimately, if you're a startup, right, your priorities change a lot of times, like a lot. Like Qoala priorities from month to month changes quite rapidly, and what we found is those changing or shifting of priorities itu juga helping us to figure out and learn more stuff about our customers and learning more stuff about the industry and the stakeholders, right? So obviously with OKRs it's being very, very useful. Dimana kayak it does help me, let's say from the marketing standpoint, okay, what kind of things do I need to prioritize from my team, right? Obviously semua orang yang in my team is like, I have my content team and I have my social media team and I have my designers and I have my performance marketing and digital marketing guys and SEO guys as well. Now, from each of this sub-department teams that I have in marketing, maybe some of their roles not necessarily defined as sebagai priority for this quarter or the next quarter. So I know exactly what kind of resources that I need to put. Misalnya kayak SEO is definitely the focus for this year, right? So I need to put double the resources into SEO and monitor it more and more closely. The same goes with performance marketing, for example, or the same goes with content, right? So it allows me to judge what kind of like resources is needed untuk each of those teams to be successful. And I need to have a talk with these guys, right? Guys, the next target is actually 10 times what you were expecting to deliver this year. Okay, how do we do it? Okay, so now we need to come up with a plan, our own plan, and then adjust accordingly. So yeah, I think OKR does work well in a stressful environment karena everybody is being pushed to work efficiently, to work harder and just focus on what really matters, which is the key results, achieving the key results, right? And I promise you, if you do follow that concept, of OKR really effectively in an organization, you start to see change in how the entire organization perform. Absolutely. So, yeah.
Sekian video kali ini. Nah, menurut kalian, gimana sih OKR diterapkan di kehidupan kalian atau di pekerjaan kalian? Share pendapat kalian ya di kolom komentar. Dan jangan lupa buat like, comment, and subscribe video ini. And see you in the next video.